In this book, I think it's chapter 6, if you haven't seen this, The Winning Spirit, 16 Timeless Principles That Drive Performance Excellence. I wrote it in 2005 with Joe Montana. It was one of the highlights of my career, actually, to write that book with him. We talk about failing fast and moving on. Think about that. Fail fast and move on. Well, you know what I've learned since I've written that? You can't always fail fast. You want to. It's a good ideal, something to strive for. But sometimes when you lose or you really mess up, you make a big mistake or a failure or you get hurt, the healing process takes some time. And so I don't want to be cavalier in just saying, hey, fail fast, move on, learn your lesson, and that would be great. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. When that's possible, that's what we want to do. But I also want to let you know that I understand that sometimes it takes a while to really recover, to integrate those lessons, and then to move on. Okay, so with that being said, let's look at the areas in our life where we've lost. And sports is a great example of this. You know, you lose a game or you lose a championship match or something, and you're heartbroken, you're devastated. Those who are really competitive, if you saw The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, you realize he was a freak that way, right? He hated to lose. He didn't just love to win, but he also hated to lose, right? So taking a sport where it's inevitable, you're going to get beaten by other people, you're going to lose a lot. That ability, the ability to kind of move beyond that, to learn the lesson, feel the pain, but also then to let's put it behind us and move on. That's a huge skill. It's easier said than done. It's not that common that people can just quickly drop it and move on. Some sports like baseball, where before the COVID, where you were playing day after day after day and you play 160 games a year, you were like forced to do it. Sports like football, where you have a whole week to think about it and plan for the next game or other matches that may not happen for, you know, a week or a month later, it's pretty tough to like hang in there, and you can use that loss for motivation, for almost, I don't think there's anything wrong with getting angry at yourself or angry at a situation, as long as you manage it properly and have it within your control to use it as an inspiration to move on. But before we move on from the loss, and nobody likes to be in pain, nobody likes to lose, but as I look back at my life, and had I not lost in multiple ways, both in sport and in my personal life and my business life, had I not lost, failed, messed up, made mistakes, huge errors, small errors, had I not gone into a state which I've shared with you in class of deep depression and darkness when I was 17, wondering what my purpose of life is, thinking about possibly taking my life, which is like unheard of to think now, but it was true so many years ago. That had I not gone into that space, I wouldn't be here talking to you. Excuse me. I would not be able to share with you the life lessons and the understanding of determination and persistence and fortitude. I wouldn't be able to have the compassion or the empathy to understand when somebody's really in a dark space and scared, because I wouldn't have gone there. I wouldn't have failed in that or lost my way. So many things I can look at, like sometimes when I'm in a tough situation, I may say, this is going to make me a better coach. When I get through this, and I hope I get through it, fingers crossed, but when I get through this, if I do, and I always do, and I get through sometimes with scars, with nothing is quite like it was before. There's some permanent damage that may have happened to a relationship or to my body or whatever. But when I get through it, I always say, this is going to make me a better coach. Why? Because I'm going to have more understanding of what other people are going through. So failure in itself is actually a good thing. We want to try to avoid it as much as possible. But when it shows up, kind of, when we were talking about, if we talk about fear or, just any kind of setbacks, right, that you want to avoid, when they happen and you get through it, it always makes you stronger. So what are you dealing with right now that you would consider a loss or a setback or something you're failing in? Like, what's your biggest loss right now? Not in the past, something that you overcame. That's good to think about because it can give you motivation to keep going. But what are you dealing with right now that you would say, I'm losing? I'm not on top of this. This thing has control of me. It could be a relationship. You could have just broken up with somebody and your heart's broken and I call it the omnipresent flu. You're always dwelling on that situation. Even if you're with somebody or working or no matter what you're doing, it's always there. Like when you have a flu, no matter what you do, you're always kind of sick. Well, when you have this heart sickness, you're sort of always sick. If any of you have gone through it, you know what I'm talking about. So when that's there, now this is when the growth happens. This is when we can really start evolving. We can start working on our inner game. I know it's hard, but this is the grist for the mill. This is when, this is the content and the raw materials that will bring out eventually your best self. Look at my gray hair, my wrinkles, my old age. If anything, trust me on this one. You will get through it. You will be better for it. Just don't give up.